Chess friends, fasten your seatbelts. Because what you're about to witness is not a game. It's a public execution of silicon arrogance. I was facing the mighty Torch Chess AI, the engine that thinks it graduated from MIT, Oxford, and the Avengers Academy at the same time, and today I decided to test whether pure human madness can bend cold calculation. You can check all my games on Rxg7.com, but right now, we dive straight into chaos without wasting a single pawn of time. I begin with pawn goes to e4. Classic? Clean. Like Newton discovering gravity, simple move, catastrophic consequences. Torch replies with pawn goes to d6. Ah, the pirate setup. Already hiding in the shadows like a Bond villain explaining its plan before losing. A few moves later I play knight goes to c3, calmly defending the pawn, developing with purpose. Torch answers with pawn goes to g6. Of course. The double dark square strategy. Bishop coming to g7, long diagonal pressure, center control, it wants that sleek hypermodern vibe. It thinks it's Kasparov wearing a leather jacket. So I strike the center with pawn goes to d4, and follow with bishop goes to g5. Pin. Pressure? Psychological warfare. Torch plays pawn goes to h6, politely asking my bishop, "Excuse me sir, would you like to capture or retreat?" Cute. I retreat the bishop, no drama yet. And then Torch snaps back with pawn goes to g5. Translation, you ran. Good. Now watch me slam the door. It blocks my diagonal while its own bishop breathes freely down the board like Darth Vader entering the hallway. But Torch, did you really think I walked in without a plan? I play queen goes to d2. Subtle. Dangerous. Long castling in mind. The diagonal is warming up. The h-file is whispering my name. h4 is coming, and when that pawn moves, it won't knock, it will kick the door open like a Viking raiding party. Torch continues with knight goes to c6. Development, central pressure. Fine. So I respond with pawn goes to d5, attacking that knight immediately. Now let's calculate, Torch. The knight cannot go to e5, too many attackers. It cannot comfortably go to b4 because pawn goes to a3 will chase it like a debt collector. So where does it go? Instead of pretending to be brave, Torch slides the knight back with knight goes to b8. Retreating. Going toward d7. Strategic regroup. Even machines understand when they're slightly uncomfortable. We castle with king goes to c1. Long side. Opposite wings. The storm sirens are officially on. Torch replies with pawn goes to e6, targeting the d5 pawn. Logical. Controlled. Mechanical. And then I ignite the battlefield with pawn goes to h4. Now we're talking. I want the h-file. I want lines opened. I want your king to start sweating coolant fluid. Torch reacts with pawn goes to g4, closing the structure. Locking it. It thinks it just stabilized the kingside. It thinks this is Berlin Wall engineering. Pause the video right here. Because what comes next is not a move, it's a statement. Instead of saving my knight like a normal, safety-first human, I unleash bishop goes to f4. Boom. Sacrifice incoming. The knight on f3 is hanging. And I don't care. This isn't checkers. This is calculated violence. The bishop now eyes h6, injects venom into the position, and suddenly that safe kingside looks like Chernobyl 5 minutes after the alarm. If Torch captures on f3 with pawn takes f3, I don't politely recapture the pawn. No. I respond with pawn takes f3. Open the G file first. Oxygen for my rooks. Then the threats pile up. Lines open like a physics equation unraveling under Einstein's chalk. Some players might suggest pawn goes to h5 or even king goes to h7. King to h7 looks solid. It protects the pawn. Maybe later rook goes to h8, king slides back. Defensive reshuffling. But here's the twist, I strike with pawn goes to e5. Now the knight is under fire. Central explosion. And I'm threatening bishop goes to d3 check, and when that bishop lands it won't be polite. It will be a subpoena delivered straight to the monarch. If the knight escapes to g8 trying to babysit the pawn, then comes bishop goes to d3 check, forcing the king to move again. And every king move is a confession of weakness. Every tempo is momentum. Every open file is a highway for heavy artillery. So I continue with rook goes to g1. Calm. Direct. Ruthless. The bishop is under attack, the pawn on h6 is hanging, and those light squares, they belong to me now. That bishop on d3 is staring like a sniper on a rooftop. Torch is calculating like it just discovered quantum mechanics, but even Schrödinger would say this king is both alive and doomed at the same time. Many players would panic and play pawn takes e5, attacking my bishop. Logical, right? Remove the attacker. But after that, I simply respond with bishop takes h6. Now the bishop on h6 can be captured by two pieces, the knight or the bishop. And here's where the position explodes like a SpaceX rocket that forgot one bolt. If the knight dares to capture the bishop, I follow with rook takes g7, tearing open the diagonal, and then queen takes h6. That's not an attack. That's a public demonstration. After the dust settles and pieces get traded, I swing with rook goes g7. And then the other rook joins the party with rook goes to g1. At that point it's checkmate in one. There's no firewall update that saves this king. The game is over. Curtains. Roll credits. So we rewind. We already established that king goes to h7 is terrible. Torch sees the danger and instead chooses knight goes to h5, attacking my bishop. Finally, some resistance. But I don't flinch. I respond with bishop takes h6, grabbing the pawn because the bishop on g7 is protected by the knight. Material. Secondary. Initiative. Everything. Black tries to close things with pawn goes to e5. That move opens diagonals for queens and bishops, and it also hints at knight goes to f4. Torch is trying to counterattack, respectable. So I calmly place the bishop with bishop goes to d3. Centralized. Eyes on the king. The tension is unbearable. Now here comes a move many players would consider, queen goes to f6. It protects the bishop and hits mine. Looks clean. Looks principled. Looks like it read a textbook. But hold on. As the self-proclaimed chess deity of the Milky Way, I answer with bishop goes to g5, attacking the queen. There's only one square for that queen to go. And once it moves, I bring thunder with rook goes to g1. File domination. Absolute control. This is not development, this is occupation. Like Rome planting its flag. Torch must react and plays pawn goes to f6, trying to kick my bishop and give the queen air. Fine. Then comes bishop goes to h6, slicing open the rook's file. The moment the queen retreats, I capture the bishop. After the recapture. Here it comes. The thunderbolt. Pawn goes to h5. That pawn isn't advancing, it's marching like Napoleon toward Moscow. It wants to land on h6 and rip open everything. If the king steps aside, thinking about rook goes to h8, and unpinning the knight, I still push pawn goes to h6. The knight must move. If it jumps back to h5, dreaming of knight goes to f4 to block diagonals, I unleash insanity, rook goes to g7. A full rook sacrifice. No hesitation. Because after the capture and recapture, the checks begin. It's not a tactic, it's a chain reaction, like Oppenheimer watching the first atomic test and whispering, "Now I am become checkmate." Torch calculates billions of lines. I calculate inevitability. Now let's return to the real continuation. Instead of the queen adventure, after king goes to h7, thinking it can stabilize with rook lifts, I simply capture the bishop. Clean. Efficient. A few moves later, I activate with rook goes to g1. The rook now has access to g5, and that square is gold. Torch tries queen goes to f6, but I answer with rook goes to g5. Now doubling rooks is possible. Pushing pawns is possible. The king has no safe neighborhood left. At this stage, the position isn't about material anymore. It's about geometry. Files are open. Diagonals are burning. The king is boxed in like it's stuck in a Kafka novel, aware of the danger but unable to escape the system. And now the position reaches that beautiful moment where calculation meets courage. I strike with pawn goes to f4. The idea is crystal clear: if you capture that pawn, I answer with pawn goes to e5, blasting open my bishop's diagonal like Galileo aiming a telescope straight at your king. Torch responds with pawn goes to f6, attacking my rook, trying to look confident. But this is where the board shifts from good position to cosmic humiliation. Instead of retreating like a normal human, I play the cold-blooded move queen goes to d1. Quiet. Deadly. Surgical. Now you cannot capture the rook at all. If you do, after pawn takes g5, your queen is wrecked, your coordination collapses, and even knight goes to h5 won't save you. It's like pulling one brick from a skyscraper and watching the whole structure fold in slow motion. So the rook lives. Initiative remains mine. Torch backs up with knight goes to a6, and I calmly improve with king goes to b1. When in doubt, improve your king. Even Stockfish respects king safety more than Wi-Fi stability. A few moves later, the plan continues. I push pawn goes to f4 again in spirit. The entire idea is to rip open the diagonal for my bishop. Torch tries knight goes to c5, attacking my bishop. That knight looks active, but in reality it's like a tourist without Google Maps, no real future squares. My bishop is far more valuable, dominating the light squares like Alexander the Great dominating territory. So I protect it with bishop goes to e2. Solid. Flexible. And in some lines, rook goes to h5 becomes a venomous idea. Then comes pawn goes to h5. Strategic, clamp. My hidden idea. Swing the rook to g6 and trap the queen. Torch senses danger and pushes pawn goes to f3, trying to open lines for counterplay. Fine. He bond with queen goes to e3, centralizing, harmonizing. Torch tries queen goes to f4, staying active. I calmly continue development with rook goes to g1. Every heavy piece now stares at the same file. This isn't development anymore, it's alignment. Like Tesla coils charging before discharge. Soon I lift with rook goes to g6. The idea is delicious: bring the queen to e2, then g2, and triple the battery. Rooks and queen lined up like an Avengers Assemble moment. I slides with queen goes to f1, trades start happening, and after some captures we see king goes to g7. That king looks exposed, like it wandered into the wrong neighborhood at midnight. Eventually rook goes to g1 lands again, and now capturing my pawn is impossible. Why? Because bishop goes to h5 check forks the king and queen. Double attack. Geometry never lies. I'm also threatening rook goes to h7. The position is suffocating. Torch tries bishop goes to g4, hitting my bishop on f3. Trades happen. Then comes queen goes to f2, attacking the knight. Yes, Torch has two knights versus my one. But here's a secret beginner's miss: two confused knights are worse than one coordinated piece. My single knight works with my queen and rooks. His pieces defend a king that's permanently uncomfortable on g7. More exchanges unfold, and I slide in queen goes to h2. The idea is obvious and terrifying: queen goes to h7 is coming. Now ask yourself, can you capture the pawn on g6? No. If you try, queen goes to h5 check crashes in. After the king moves, rook goes to g1 check follows, and mate is inevitable. It's like Newton's third law of chess: every greedy pawn grab produces an equal and opposite disaster. So instead, Torch eventually captures with queen takes g6, and I answer with rook goes to g1. We transition into a queen versus rook and knight endgame. My king is just going through the first rank because I need to stop the pawn first. After a couple of moves, I am pushing forward my a pawn all the way. Here, we have knight to f5, where the knight is positioning the threat of checking the white king. Therefore, I played queen to a3, so the knight cannot go through the third rank. The king is just moving forward, hoping that knight to g3 check can arrive, but my pawn goes to a7, just one step away from promotion, and the black king cannot do anything. I finally promoted a new queen, and a few moves later, I checkmated black. So, it was a mind-blowing chess game that I played with Torch. Don't forget to visit ramachess.com, wishing you all the best. Bye bye, take care and see you soon.